everybody. I'd like to get started. I think people will be rolling in as we go here. But we've got a really exciting program, and I want to be sure to get all the time in and introduce all the key people. So lots of new faces. How many people are here for the first time today? Wow, okay, great. So glad to have you here. So if raise your hand again. Everybody look around, and all the old timers want to get out and say hi to those folks that are here for the first time. And I know we've had some people that have taken a long drive to get here. So I know Holland, Michigan. Anybody farther than Holland, Michigan this morning? Holland. All right. So Mary and Chris, you guys get an autographed copy of my latest crime thriller called Self-Aware and Other Deadly Crimes. So anybody else from a distance? Nobody too far. All right, well, great. We're going to start, and this is LeadersConnect breakfast, and in my calculations, it's been going on for about 20 years, since the late 90s. And today is a really special day because we're going to focus on a topic that I think is very unique, and that is cancer. It's very unique in the sense, yes, microphone, all right. Good idea.
I don't know if it's on. I'm going to check.
So we're going to focus on that, and we've got a lot of people here. How's that? Is that working? Oh, I'm actually supposed to use the microphone. All right. So I wanted, first of all, to thank the people who make this possible by sponsoring the event. So we have Raymond Financial, there's the sponsor. We have Bank of Ann Arbor and Roger Rail and Zingerman's. So Roger, the name of your company is?
R2V.
R2V. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so Chris, can you come up and start? And Chris has had a very leisurely week as an accountant.
Yes.
He was fairly bored. And she promises to devote 20 seconds to answering all your questions about what this new tax law means.
How many of you have not filed your tax returns yet? Excellent. Don't tell my husband, but I'm in there right with you. All right, quickly, Raymond is very proud to sponsor LeadersConnect, particularly this morning. I have some very good, inspiring friends on the panel today. We're a professional services firm with an awesome office here in Ann Arbor. I am usually joined by colleagues, but we are all at the office scrambling, unbelievably, to get our last batch of returns out. So if you didn't know that, you have a couple extra days this year. We have until April 17th. So hustle up there and let me know if you have any questions afterwards. Big round.
All right, and let's see, come on up, Deb. From our Bank of Ann Arbor, Deb Jones. And Deb, you've been busy too, right? You're doing some financial work, and yeah, so getting all those forms in. So you're going to tell us, once we get the big tax return, how to invest that money. Yeah, okay. Or where to borrow what we didn't put away.
Well, as Dr. Rob said, I'm Deb Jones. I'm with Bank of Ann Arbor. I represent the Wealth and Investment Management Group, where we help families grow and preserve their wealth for the next generation. Also with me this morning, we have Diane Winter, Mary Hayes.
Raise your hands up there. Yeah.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you for thank Bank of Ann Arbor. Have you guys made your announcements about who's coming this summer?
Not yet. It's coming out in May.
Okay, because I have my name in there.
You and Mitch Ryder?
Me and Mitch Ryder. It's between us and Bob Seeger. I don't know. So, and then we have Zingerman's Tom Root here, somewhere out there. And Tom, come on up. You're all the way in the back there. Tom is not only with Zingerman's, but he's going to tell us a little bit about his other endeavor. So, Tom Root.
Thanks, Rob. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate your attention, and thanks for the group that's assembled this morning, and Rob for putting it all together.
Well,
I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Zingerman's Community of Businesses, and then the other thing that I do as my night job is I co-founded an organization called MakerWorks in town, which is a little tool shop that's kind of run like a health lab. which means you can, if you need access to a mill or a table saw or that sort of thing, please don't buy it, because it's just going to sit there and gather dust. Come in and use ours, and we'll teach you how to use it if you don't know how, and we'll put you in touch with people who are really good at this kind of stuff and all that kind of thing. So thank you very much.
Tom, could you also you do the mail order too?
I am one of the managing partners here at Zingerman's, and I own the mail order company. I'm
Great.
one of the corners of the mail order company.
Thank you. So if you're thinking about your presence early, get your order in. So what percentage of your business do you do after Thanksgiving, Tom?
50%.
50% in 1 month.
Yeah,
Wow.
in 1 month. Yeah.
Wow, crazy. That's hard to staff that business. So. And I have some other people that I'd like to just do a quick introduction that are here for the first time. Let's see, Dick Sarns, who many of you know, if you just raise your hand, Dick. Dick is one of our alumni entrepreneurs in town. He started a couple businesses and still going strong. Next to him is Stacy Kolinkowski. Did I say that? Yeah. And Stacy's here from Google. So we're really excited to have Google participating in the program, and we're working on getting some leadership from Google to come in the fall and present to LeadersConnect. Also, where's Eric Fritz? Eric, I know, is always in the back here. Eric, is this?
Where all the snacks are.
Yeah, so I think, Eric was in the military, so he gets in the corner where there's nobody that can be, and he sees the whole room. He always sits in that corner. And Eric is retired. What was your rank when you retired, Eric? Commander. Okay. Actually, Mary and Chris's son is he commander now or an engineer?
He was a lieutenant commander, but
Lieutenant commander. They're marriage therapists. Lieutenant. All right. Well, Eric is going to be hosting an event, we think in November, where we're going to talk about leadership in the military, the new military particularly, what we can learn from the new military. Did I get that right, Eric?
That's right.
Eric's also a professor at the University of Michigan. Don Root, come on up, Don. I want to introduce Don. Don is here from Howell, right? And he's got, actually, I'm sorry, Don just lost his brother this week from cancer, so this is a particularly difficult environment. I'm glad to be in this environment. Difficult time. One of, 10 kids? Is that 12? 12 kids, okay. Anybody top that? 12 kids? So you also win an autographed copy of my book for the most siblings, yes. And do we have any only children? No. Oh, okay. 2 only children and me, so you guys also get books because we need books because we have nobody to talk to. So Don has been very involved in the Big Red Barrel program. Could you tell us about that, Don?
Sure.
You could use the mic here. Yeah.
The Big Red Barrel was started up in Livingston County. I'm part of the Livingston County Community Alliance. The Big Red Barrel is actual big barrel.
What I have is going to hold it tight to your face. Yeah.
That you get rid of your unused prescription drugs so they don't fall in the wrong hands. As you know, the opioid crisis, a lot of that starts with the medicine cabinet. And so our program is to help people to safely get rid of those drugs. So what you do, we have locations throughout the state. All your Michigan State Police posts have a Big Red Barrel. Saline, Chelsea Police Departments, up in Livingston, all your police departments have them. And it doesn't cost you anything to dispose of those, just your time to drop them off. They go to a incinerator, so they're not in the water tables. Studies have shown that municipalities have actually raised the cost of filtering water because of the prescription drugs. So since we started in 2011, we've expanded to over 70 barrels in the state. We are working with Trinity Hospitals. We placed one in Howell, and we'll have a meeting with Ypsilanti here next week. We've collected over 10,000 pounds of pills. 10,000 pounds of pills would fill a third of this room. So all we ask is you take your pills, dump them in a Ziploc bag, you take care of the vial, or if you're going to just throw the vial there, make sure you cross off your name and the barcode. So we'll take pills, any pills. We get, stool softeners, vitamins, but the opioids and things are what we're really looking for. Liquids, again, take a Ziploc bag, a paper towel in the bottom, dump the liquid in it, let it dry as much as you possibly can, and then throw it in the big red barrel. So.
John, if somebody wants to have one at their business, can they do that in Washington County?
Well, actually, you have to have police departments that control substances.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to watch what's going in there,
Okay.
or somebody there.
Yeah.
So in most police departments, it's during normal hours, working hours, but we do have 3 or 4 that are 24/7. They have a
Are
camera.
there any in Washington County?
Washington County, we have quite a list of them.
Well, we won't go all through it,
Yeah.
but yes, people can find it through your website.
Right. And all your Michigan State Police posts have a big red barrel. So.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much. Sorry for your loss, too. The program that he's talking about, next month, I'm going to tell you that we're going to have another pretty special program, and it's going to be on safety in the schools, which is a topic that we're all concerned about. And people think about that as around guns, but it also has to do with drugs and bullying. And we have the superintendent of schools of Ann Arbor, the head of the school board, Chris Stedman, I think is her name. And we also are talking to a couple other superintendents. So if you know somebody who might want to participate on that panel because they're an expert in education or anything related to this, let me know. And we're also going to have a group of students from high school who have been going around and talking about this from their own perspective. So that's our program for May. And in June, we're going to have the dean of the Scott DeRue, who's the dean of the school, Ross School. We're going to have some people from the University of Michigan talking about options and opportunities for businesses to get involved in the university. A couple other people I want to introduce. Matt, can you come up? And Matt Handel is my tech guy, right? So I would call him for fun, and when we're stuck and can't get figured out, somebody's supposed to get mailed a brochure and they're not or whatever. So Matt, can you talk about what you do? And first time I've ever seen Matt in a suit and tie, and it's the first time I've ever seen any tech guy in a suit and tie.
Well, I'm not just a tech guy.
Okay,
So,
all right.
business professional, so I do have to clean up sometimes.
There you go.
I'm going to try to make this brief because we want to get to the program, but I know most of you, in this day and age in technology, understand that website and social media and email marketing is a very important thing for your business, especially small businesses who are trying to outreach and get customers to them. But what you also have a lot of times is, because you're a small business or you're a sole entrepreneur, you don't have a lot of time or money to dedicate towards that. And so what typically you think of when you're trying to say, okay, now I have this product or this service I want to get out there, who do I go to help me? You think either a large advertising web design agency, which is very expensive, it's going to take you a lot of time, a lot of money, or your 18-year-old nephew. That can do it for your free or cheap, but you wouldn't trust them driving your car, much less your business marketing. So, as a shameless plug, Dr. Robbins allowed me to
Invited.
Thank you. To offer my services to you guys. I've been a professional for 20 years. Web design, email marketing, analytics, SEO, the whole gamut. So, if you have any questions, you want to get your website out there, you want to do some more communications and marketing, or you just want to, have a better presence on the web to get people to you, because if you build it, they won't come. So you have to go to them. You have to find your audience and target them and get them to come to you. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk to you about it after we're done.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I know there's a couple other people I've promised to talk. Is Alex here? Maybe not. I don't see Alex. You want to come up? You talk about your program? Sure.
Rob?
Brooke, it's good. I thought I was going to a network with you, but I ended up doing speed dating.
Roger's telling me to go this way.
Okay.
We're going this way.
So, but it was speed networking, so maybe you
We
could tell us
did.
about your program
We
in like
speed
10
connected.
seconds.
You
We're
bet.
speeding here.
You bet. My name is Brooke Boyle. I founded a company called Engage, and we are helping people establish a network or expand and diversify their network in Ann Arbor. And Rob is a connector for Engage, Roger is, Ken is, and we are lowering that threshold for people who are new to the area or looking to transition from maybe student life to adulting, as it is called now.
Where's Sean?
or-
back here? We got Sean, raise your hand. There's one right there.
So we take the local folks who are used to having a cup of coffee with somebody and introducing them to their network, and we're centralizing that and breaking down all the silos across Ann Arbor and all the various industries. So if you're new to the area, you meet a connector, I find out what makes life rich for them in Ann Arbor, what professionally you're experienced in and enjoy, have a large network in, and then what personally would you just enjoy having a conversation with someone about. And so now we're matching people based on the passions that extend beyond the scope of their day job. It's more than just what's on your LinkedIn profile. And we've just done a soft launch. Engage started in August last year. But in our soft launch, we've both created jobs and filled jobs just because of the passions of people connecting people about what makes Ann Arbor a great place to live and work and have
They
a full
want to
life.
reach you.
So a2engage.com is the easy way, and I did bring a bunch of cards because I ran out of them last month when I came. So I'd be happy to connect with any of you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's a fun activity. And maybe have you demonstrate this sometime next year for us here and show how it works. So it's kind of a cool way to get to know it. Well, we're going to move on to the program. There's so many different people here to introduce, but I would like to invite you all to stay afterwards because this is LeadersConnect, and the idea is don't sit still and talk to your neighbor. Meet somebody new. There's a lot of fascinating people out here, and some of you are looking for jobs, some of you are transitioning into careers, and those are all opportunities to meet new people and talk about what they're doing. So in my work as a clinical psychologist, and for 20 years, and then another 20 years doing executive coaching, I've experienced many people who have been struggling with cancer, either directly or in with themselves or in their family. So let me ask, Kathy suggested this. Kathy, you want to just do this little poll here? And
Oh, you can.
come on, Kathy. Kathy Macdonald is a good friend of mine and a colleague, and she's great at working with audiences. So just gonna do a little.
This is just because it's not just our stories, it's yours. Could you do me a favor and stand up if you've had a personal experience with cancer? I would imagine yes. Yeah, okay, this is extremely helpful. We're going to talk about what our experiences are today, but it's not just about jobs. Afterwards, if you want to help share your story, I had a great conversation with Chris before we started today. Feel free to do that. I think we're all stronger when we're able to sort of share what's happened to us and to give advice to one another and guidance, and at least know that you're not in this alone.
How about people also stand up if you are a person who has had cancer yourself? So there's quite a few people in the audience with that situation. Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you all for coming. And then again, the impact on families. I can't imagine any family that has not either you've had a family member or a friend. I know I've lost and been through this with many friends. Some are surviving, some are not. But it's been to me a very interesting story. And one of the interesting things I started to realize is that I grew up, I should say, with a mother who was convinced that she had cancer from the time, at least what I could remember, but probably for earlier than that. She was just afraid of cancer, and it organized her life. And really, she thought any ache or pain was cancer, and so she would go to the doctor and really became quite a hypochondriac. It wasn't just cancer, but she was worried about her health all the time. She actually lived till 82, and so I think she didn't exactly succumb too early to anything. But I grew up with a great deal of fear, and then I started to talk to my friends here and to many other people and realized that the experience for many of them was not totally negative. As a matter of fact, it was transformative, and many reported that once they got through the difficult treatment, that their lives actually was better, that they had a better viewpoint on life and a better appreciation of life. And I found that fascinating. At first I thought, well, it's just a quirk, you know, Heather and I had talked about it. And then I talked to Steve, Kathy, and Jan, and Larry. And I realized this is really a phenomenon. And I started to read about it, and I've read a couple of really fascinating books about people who have gone through this. And the story seems to be the same, how it really spurs people on to think deeply, become more self-aware, maybe more self-aware, but also other-oriented and more concerned about their reason for being. Why are they in this world at this particular time? So I invited 5 of the people that I know who have been through this. Jan Hansen on the end there as a fellow psychologist, and Jan and my wife Pat in 2001 spent a lot of the fall doing recovery work in New York City after the World Trade Center. You were with the Red Cross, right?
Yeah, disaster mental health.
Disaster mental health. And Pat went, and I went, and Jan went, and we all had, an amazing experience which transformed us, although it was extremely negative to deal with all these thousands of people who lost family members in New York, or who were afraid of what was going to happen next. Heather and I have known each other back since early 90s?
Review, yeah.
Yes. When was Ann Arbor? When was the Business Review? The early 90s, probably?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s. So Heather was part of the Business Review, which many of you have read and missed, and part of the Ann Arbor News, which we dearly miss. And I discovered a few years ago that Heather has struggled with cancer and other things, which she will talk about. Kathy and I shared an office for many years and have been friends. And Kathy is one of the most creative, authentic people I know, who does some amazing stuff with organizational consulting and executive coaching. Steve, you and I have known each other for a long time, back in your days, as he was one of the founders with his dad of New Step, which is a machine that I use pretty regularly to deal with some neurological damage I had from a childhood injury. And the days that I do New Step, I feel good. The days that I don't, I get spasms. So it's pretty amazing, that machine that they invented. And Steve has struggled with cancer just in the last year and is coming out and feeling strong, and we'll talk about his experience. And Larry, you and I go way back, right? I think we were on the playground together, maybe. Wow. Larry and I have worked together.
Not that old.
Not that, yeah. I started telling people, by the way, how many of you like to be told you look good?
Of course not.
I'm starting to tell people that I'm 80.
Yeah.
I'm 71, but I'm telling you I'm 80. And they say, wow, you look really great. I would highly recommend that as a way to get that compliment. So let's try it. So Larry and I know each other way back, and Larry has been through cancer himself, and then his wife had cancer and got through that, and then tragically died in an auto accident a couple years ago. So worked with Larry, worked with all these folks, and so I'm going to turn it over to them. And the format today is we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about their story and maybe a few pieces of advice for people who are not going through that now, but have in the past. And then also how to deal with people who have cancer, because this is another thing that I hear people say. Some people really showed up and were there for me and did all the right things. Other people say, I thought that person was my friend and I never saw them during the whole struggle. And I think that we often are awkward about what we say to people when they have this kind of condition. So I'm going to start with, Jan, you want to go first and pass it down? Would you pass it down to the picture? Jan Hansen.
Good morning. Or early morning to everybody. I'm a psychologist also, like Rob, and prior to my diagnosis, I had a private practice in Saline, working with people with chronic cognitive difficulties and with emotional reaction to brain injuries, to strokes, to medical illnesses that created some cognitive difficulties. My history also includes I worked on the inpatient unit, oncology unit at Akron General Medical Center, and was there. They didn't know what to call me, I guess, an oncology psychologist. So that was a number of years ago. After that, I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and I was hired in at Boulder Memorial Hospital to do physical medicine and rehabilitation. And that was prior to all the postdocs that they have now. But I was the only applicant at that time that had hospital experience. So I hightailed it out to Denver and took a course from Bob Heaton on neuropsychological testing and cognitive issues, and so that helped me prepare for that job. And then after that, I moved back home. Everybody in Colorado said, "You're moving where?" Yeah, I'm moving to Michigan. That's my home. I love Michigan. And I moved back to Michigan and got a job at Chelsea Community Hospital. Worked at physical medicine rehabilitation on inpatients and outpatients. So I've got a little bit of job experience in cancer care as well as cognitive deficits. So ironically, on a normal Friday, what I thought was going to be a normal Friday, I was driving to Bush's to do some grocery shopping, and I passed by Bush's on my left, and I didn't see it, and I didn't recognize anything. I just drove by, and I thought, this is the old Vistion plant. I just passed Bush's. What'd they do? They put a bunch of arborvitae in front of them or something, or do they paint over their sign? And why don't I know where I am? And I turned around and then approached Bush's from the right, from my right-hand side, and everything was clear. I could see they had not planted any arborvitae, and they didn't paint over their sign. Everything was clear. So I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty weird, but then I drove home, and I drove right past my home, and I didn't recognize it. I didn't even see the driveway, and then I passed by a blue house. I said, blue house, this is my neighbor's. This is Betty's house. This is not my house. I just passed by my house. I did it again. And shortly after that, I had a glasses appointment at Sears Optical, and I said, my eyes are weird. Do the works, look inside and everything. And he said, okay. And he did the peripheral vision test, and that's where you click the little button every time you see a little flash of light. And I wasn't clicking very much. And I said, this can't be good. What's going on? And he told me afterwards I had a left peripheral complete vision loss. My left peripheral vision, I couldn't see anything out of both eyes on my left peripheral vision. So he said, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. This has got to be central. So you need to see a neurologist right away and contact your primary care physician right away. So I called her from the parking lot, and she said, Jan, you need to get to the emergency room right away. Don't make an appointment with a neurologist. You'll be a couple months before you get an appointment, and it'll be a couple months before you get the tests that you need, and you need to get on this right away. So I called my husband and I said, we need to go to the emergency room. And I explained it to him. I was driving, I had my car. So I pulled out of Sears and turning right on to State Street. And I thought, okay, I can do this. I have a left peripheral vision loss, so scan to my left, scan to my left, scan to my left, scan. And that's what I was doing, scan to my left, scan to my left, look to my left, look to my left. And I saw this little yellow car, it looked like a VW Bug. And I pulled out.
You want to keep that?
That better?
Yeah.
Okay. I pulled out, and everything was okay, and I was driving along, and then I looked in the rearview mirror, and it was not a little yellow bug. It was a school bus. And I hadn't known that. I hadn't recognized it. I hadn't seen it all. Some of it was cut off by my vision. So we got to the emergency room right away. And I was given an MRI pretty quickly and diagnosed with a glioblastoma, which is a brain tumor, but it's also the most aggressive type of brain tumor. And it tends to grow fast and it tends to grow back and come back. So I was given this news and went to into the hospital and had brain surgery. And they cut out the tumor, which turned out to be the size of a fist. You know, I was hoping it would be like a pea or something, but no, it was a fist. So mine was, you know, reasonably, it wasn't yesterday that it started. It wasn't just pulling out onto State Street that it started before that. I was able to think back to when I last felt really capable. And the other thing that my husband and I have done, I don't do it right now, but have done is he has a business, he's a photographer for the Michigan State, are these Spartans here? All right. Michigan State University Marching Band. And we both love that. And I was his lovely assistant. And after doing a full business of my own and as a psychologist, I was very happy to be a lovely assistant. And I could just ask him where to set the camera. He would tell me how to set the camera, and I would go up and take pictures of the formations from the photo deck.
Jen, people ask me to keep track of time, so you got about 3 more minutes. And then just
okay. All right. So we've done that too. Now, after I got my diagnosis, I think I was stunned, shocked. I really couldn't talk about it. I couldn't do anything now. That was ironically the same day as the Michigan game at the Big House when I was getting my surgery, when I was in the hospital. And some of the doctors came up to me and said, all right, I usually root for U of M, but today I'm rooting for Michigan State for you. It was really sweet. It was very sweet. And then my next challenge was they sent a slice of my tumor into MD Anderson to assess for the sensitivity to Temodar. And if I wasn't in the 30% sensitive to Temodar, I couldn't get the chemo because it wouldn't be considered effective. So I found out the test results, and it was the 30% I was sensitive to Temodar, and I jumped off the table, the examining table, and hugged the oncologist. And then I entered the treatment phase. And I had brain surgery, little time to heal, and then radiation. And that happened concurrently with the pill form chemotherapy, Temodar, which was not new, but more on the relatively new side. They used to do a lot of infusions for chemotherapy, but I think most people get infusions. But the infusions apparently didn't get to the glioblastomas because they didn't pass by the blood-brain barrier. So I took the pill form chemo. Now, that was the treatment phase, and I got radiation. So I want to say one thing about radiation. When people have said to me, you know, man, can I pray for you? Can I think about you? I said, absolutely, absolutely. I would really appreciate that. And it was kind of funny because I was walking down to radiation and I had been talking to a number of people who were praying for me, and I felt like I was accompanied to radiation. I did not feel alone. I felt like I had friends with me. And then when I laid down on the radiation machine, I felt like they were standing around the machine looking at me. And I'll tell you also, if you have to have radiation of the brain, it's not as bad. That the mask is not the horror film mask, with the white plastic and kind of an expression. It's great, and you can see through it. And they said, well, you can open your eyes if you want to. I said, oh no, I'm not opening my eyes. But as soon as, what I decided to do is as soon as the machine went on, and the light went on, and the hum went on, I decided that I had a job to do too. The machine was doing its job, Hammer was doing its job, and I had my job to do. So I visualized the tumor shrinking, and I visualized there was a little droplet from the tumor that was identified by the MRI, that one disappearing. And so each time the machine went on, instead of panicking and thinking of frightening thoughts, I visualized the tumor shrinking. I figured, this is my job, I have a job to do, and so this is what I'm going to do at this time. So I did that, and the mask was not a scary, horror film mask. It was a very warm, soothing, great. You could see through it. I was not about to open my eyes, but it was very warm, and it was soothing, it was comfortable. So I was very relieved.
Okay, let's hold it at that, and we'll get back to the conversation. But I mean, it's really fascinating. All your training seemed to really help you cope with this. How many years out are you now from your diagnosis?
2.5 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll get back, because I know there's other points, but I mean, the whole idea of using the mind here is so fascinating. So maybe you can pass it over to Heather, and we'll pick you up in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, I will make, like Rob said, I know we had a series of questions that we all can answer, and we have some similarities in what we went through. So I'll give you a summary of mine. Like Rob said, I had a lot of stuff. Anybody watches Good Morning America, and if you're a fan of Robin Roberts, I love her. She wrote a book, Everybody's Got Something. Yeah, that's me. So it started, I was 5 years ago, I was a 40-year-old playing soccer 2-3 days a week. I had title boxing, anybody knows, down the street. I was a member of that. 40 was the new 30, great shape, and my legs started going, I'm a mom of two, and they were 12 and 14 at the time. But my legs started going numb. It's like, what is going on? And so, long story short, that was like in January, and it took through doctors and lots of, different doctors and appointments and being referred on and on to March to get to a neurologist, because then now I'm limping, I'm losing my mobility, my ability to even run, to play soccer or anything. And it ended up being breast cancer. How you get breast cancer out of numb legs, right? But what had happened is they did a spinal tap and found cancer cells in my spinal fluid, and they tied that to something called leptomeningeal carcinocytosis. I know I'm not saying anybody medically smart out there. I'm not saying the second word right. But that is a rare complication of cancer, like less than 5% of cancer, or folks with cancer ever get that. And usually, they kept telling me, usually they're older and they've had cancer 2 or 3 times already, and it's a death sentence. I mean, leptomeningeal is a 7-month life expectancy. So, and I was right away, and we'll talk a lot about positive attitude, but with 2 kids, a husband and 2 kids at home and working full time, I was like, I'm not dying. I looked at my mom and I'm like, you better get finding some do-rags or something. I'm not wearing a wig because I hear they're hot and scratchy. So, and they looked at me, they're like, you're not going to lose your hair. That's the other weird thing about me. I had brain surgery too, in a way. I have a port in my head here permanently, and they put the chemo, methotrexate, through this port thing, the Mayo reservoir. I don't even know how to say that either. You can tell I'm not a very good patient. I'll take notes. And so that's how they gave me my actual chemo, so I didn't lose my hair. So my chemo experience was less torturous than Minnie's, so that was good. And then I ended up getting diagnosed with Lyme disease a few months later, which I think, hindsight being 2020, was the leg numbness. The ignorance of Lyme disease in our area here, especially 5 years ago, helped them find that breast cancer really early. I had some radiation, and then I did chemo, and I was in remission by September, from March to September. I didn't start chemo till like almost May, with all the, because they did radiation first. So then it came back 2 years later, in 2015, in my ovaries. So anybody who watches those commercials, I wish I could remember the drug with oh, she had breast cancer, it spread to other organs. There's this commercial that's been going around. That's what I had, hormone positive. And so, you know, it's kind of like, what's the next organ? But, you know, you got to live life and be positive and keep going. And I keep getting my scans and my MRIs and CTs, and they keep on me. And lo and behold, I did that a few weeks ago, and they found a blockage in my left kidney, so I had surgery last Thursday. And I just I don't think this is cancer related, but, you know, it's just like what I'm saying. It's always something. So that is my overall whatever, and I know I'll be jumping in. And Steve and I know my buddy here, the fighter, we have some props, so we'll have fun with that later. So, you want me to pass it right to Kathy, Rob?
Yeah, I wanted, how long are you out from?
Well, the original diagnosis 5 years. It was March 18, 2013.
I just want to share what your doctor said about you being the poster child.
Well, yeah, because I get mad. I'm like, I think, you know, I had more going on, and I want people to listen to me, and I can be a case study, and I have I have a lot of doctors, ologists or something. So I have a neurologist, and my neurologist is younger than me, and he'll look at me now, and he'll just say, back then I would have bet $10,000 that you wouldn't be here today. And so I'm like, why does somebody want to study me, you know, because I did a lot of holistic, alternative healing and stuff outside of the traditional treatments too that I think made a big difference, and eating right and other things to try to change your environment. And he says, oh, you're an outlier. You're an outlier. You know, so they're happy with me. Every time my oncologist sees me, I'm this miracle baby or miracle child or whatever he calls me. Like, okay, whatever. So it's, you know, it's frustrating. If I could have the money and time to go to the Mayo Clinic or something, I would. Maybe someday I still will, but because I still have all the neuropathy and the cane and the business, but it is what it is at this point. But.
We're sort of a buffet of various ailments. Okay, mine is oral cancer. And all of you in this room, I'd be willing to bet, have an HPV virus in you. It was caused by HPV. And there's probably no one in this room who hasn't had either a dead or alive HPV virus in their body. Mine landed in my tonsils. And I ended up with oral cancer. Mine was not a weak leg or bad vision. Mine was an appalling meeting. Okay, a really bad one. I'm in the back of the room going, this has got to end. And I had a lump. And it's funny, it's not on this side, it's only on one side. And it's those little symptoms that you pick up, some more dramatic than others. But one of the lessons I think you'll hear from all of us is if you suspect something, get it checked out. And so got mine checked out, small needle biopsy, ended up being cancer. They had no idea what it was. Okay, so they poked around, finally landed with taking out my tonsils. And the bottom line is I'm a female. At that point, I had no history of heavy drinking or smoking. I was the beginning of, as was Chris, this tsunami of oral cancers tied to HPV. And there are about 100 different HPV viruses. 40 of them are kind of nasty. About 3 or 4 of them are really yucky. All of the cancers that are HPV based, though, can be eliminated through vaccines that are now available. So if you have kids or grandchildren, get them vaccinated. It's Gardasil and a couple of others that are available, because you don't have to go through what Chris and I and any of the rest of you in this room might go through with HPV. They believe now HPV has typically been referred to as the cancer associated with cervical cancer. They believe within the next 8 years, more oral cancers than cervical cancers will be caused by HPV. If you're male, 9 out of 10 oral cancers are in men. So if you've got a sore throat, scratchy stuff going on, get it checked out. Bottom line, radiation, chemo, lost about 1/3 of my body weight. It was a heck of a way to lose a lot of weight. But you know, you have the pork, mine was here, yours was in your head, stomach tubes, all that kind of really yucky stuff. But I'm one of the lucky ones who made it through. Not everybody does. The thing I would have you share from your cancer experiences, or if you know someone going through at least oral cancer, it's what happens after treatment that is sometimes the toughest. You keep cooking after radiation for another month or so. You got no taste buds, no spit, no thyroid, no anything. Got to find a good dentist. There's that kind of stuff. But you're alive and you're well, and everything tastes different, which is really kind of fun. It's like starting all over again. So at any rate, life is good.
Boy, I'm really honored to be up here with these warriors, and it's kind of funny when you go through it yourself. You feel like you're the only one. You're the only warrior. It's kind of your battle, and it can actually define you. I was in business with my dad. My dad's here. Dad, I love you. And the fact you got up this early to come to the presentation, you were astounding.
You stayed up all night.
And you beat me. You were here before me. I pulled up and I saw him pull up and go, oh my God, there's my dad. And my bro man's here too. My bro, Dave. How you doing? So, and I have other friends, Ingrid, Cliff, Sheldon, appreciate being here. Susan Carlson for Manpower. In business, you make a lot of friends, don't you? It's not all about just whatever the business is. But for us, we were going through some transition in our company. And of course, I'm involved in a family business. And that's a whole nother topic. And I can meet with someone who wants to talk about that, but it's all good. There are some challenges too. How do you separate business from family? I've made the decision that I'm going to call my dad. In business, it was always Dick. It seemed to be very awkward. Dad, what do you think about this? We're at an executive team meeting. But at this time in my life, it's Dad. And so we want to enjoy this time as a father-son relationship. Our family made a decision to sell the company, something that I've been involved in. I'm the originator of the idea of the New Step product. I'm an exercise physiologist and also studied in gerontology. And so the decision was made. It wasn't really my decision. So in the sale process, it was really difficult, actually. The decision was made. We had 7 bidders that came out that were interested in buying our company. And then we had 7 dinners, 7 presentations. So I think I presented probably 90% of the presentations. And during that time, I had this tightness around my eye, and it became like I had a lump sticking out. And so it wasn't painful, but it was really uncomfortable. I mean, something is really wrong. And but again, we moved ahead, we did the meetings, I had involuntary tears coming out of my eye, actually. And so it was very, very tough, very difficult, but we got the job done. And so it was after that I finally, I had some misdiagnoses, very, very common. So if you feel something in your body that you feel, maybe you're not getting the right diagnosis, go with your gut feel. So finally I did get the diagnosis, and after some misdiagnoses, and I was with my ENT in the room where they come in and do a biopsy. At that time I was with my wife, and I had a great physician, and it's a real difficult dialogue. You imagine the physician giving news that someone has cancer. So I had Dr. McKean at the University of Michigan, great. I can't say enough about U of M. So Dr. McKean, after they did the biopsy, they left the room. I looked at Lori. I said, I know this is cancer. And so I had this lump during the meantime. We do have some props. I brought my sunglasses. I was wearing my shades all the time.
I'm in charge of the props. You keep talking.
This is a good time for the props.
Yeah.
So
You're looking like one of the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I was a blues brother, but I had this lump. I didn't want to scare the kids, you know. I'd go into Panera each morning. I actually told the manager at Panera that, you know, I had this situation, and so I was diagnosed. When Dr. McKean came out, she had tears in her eyes. And so that really catches your attention. Sure. And so you're just locked in. I mean, it is total focus. You're just looking at her. And then Lori and I began to hug. And I looked at Dr. McKean, she's nodding. Yes, we should be hugging. Okay. And so then I'm really locked in what's coming next. And sure enough, I had squamous cell cancer. Very, very rare, located in my ethmoid sinus cavity. And she said, well, there's not enough data to give you your odds. We could do surgery. It would be morbid. They call it salvage surgery, where they would have to take my eye out. Now, granted, when they take my eye out, they don't put it back in. They put it in a little box, they gift wrap it, and give it to me. And so I'm listening to that, okay. And then, of course, then they have to go in and get the tumor, you know, on top of that. So I would have been like an Iraqi war vet, seriously, you know, coming out of this. And then she said, but you know, I'm going to fight for you to have chemo and radiation treatment. It works really well on fast-growing aggressive tumors. I had no idea. Well, that's good news. The word chemo is good. And so at that point, I'm like, well, bring it on. This is another experience. You know, life is not calm seas all the time. We know that in Michigan. We wake up every day. We don't know what kind of shit we're going to have for it. You know, and you know what the weather's going to be like. But that's kind of like life, isn't it? We're going to have battles. This is my battle. And mine was a little bit unique because we're selling the company. We did complete that, so that was done. And then I had my doc said, you got to take a year off. And okay, she must know what she's talking about. So I went into New Step after the weekend, decided to transition, met with the team. This is it. I think I hugged everybody at New Step and walked out the door. And so now, out of all the things in life, this is my battle. I mean, this is me and how I react to it. So, boy, I don't know, we don't have much time here too, but just a little bit more on that is I also am a head patient, head neck. I shouldn't say head.
About 5 minutes yet, so you're all right.
Yeah, then I'm going to have to see Dr. Rob more often if I'm just a head patient. But when I was fitted for my mask, I now had 3 docs. I had a ENT, oncologist, and a radiation physician who's like world renowned. And I was getting fitted for my mask, and he came into my room with a resident, and he's about this tall, but you know he'd been around for a while, and looks at me and he goes, you know, that tumor is too big. I don't think we can cure this. Now, my wife wasn't with me, I was alone, and there was a nurse sitting there too, and so I'm thinking, okay, how long do I have? And he just pauses, and he says, well, you know, this can kill you. Okay. All right, well, if it gets really bad, I don't want to be one of those people you have to flip over, you know, the hospital to clean me or whatever. In many ways, I think we treat our dogs better than humans. And he goes, well, that is your advanced directive. Write that down. And he left. And I'm like, oh my God, I just was thinking, this is serious. And the nurse was sitting there looking at me, and she goes, you know, cancer sucks. But you know, you don't know when you're going to live. No one can tell you when you're going to live, when you're going to die. And she said, well, if the cancer were to continue to grow, it would go into your frontal lobe, your brain, and it would continue to grow, and your organs would shut down. Okay, listen to that. Okay, but then she goes, but you know, you have to fight. you do have to fight, you know. So I listened to that, and that evening, I called a friend of mine whose son is a cage fighter. These guys are just demolished this competition, and I've seen 4 of his fights in a 60-second little montage. This guy, I don't agree with that kind of battle, but this guy knows how to do it. And I called my friend, I got Cole's number, he's about 27, and I called him that night. I said, Cole, you don't know me, but I know your mom really well, and I'm in a tough battle. And I want to know what you do when you go into fights to make sure you win. And we just had this conversation. I know it's being videotaped. I don't want to say, oh, you know, do you have can you blank it?
Yeah, we get
you can bleep it. So we just had this conversation. It turned out I'm going to be a motherfucking cancer ass kicker. I'm going to make sure that cancer fears me more than I fear it. And it takes 10 positives to defeat 1 negative thought. Isn't that true? It's all positive. No tears, no fears. Anyone comes into my room with tears in their eyes, gotta leave, out of the room. This is all about winning. I brought my boots here today. I didn't sure how dressed up I should be. Okay, my goal was to crush that cancer with my boot and stomp it into the ground. Heather and I both are fighters.
Okay, put them on there, Heather.
Yeah. This is signed. Mine was what I was doing before I couldn't do it anymore, right? They're real. I know how to wrap my hands and everything.
There we go. Bam. You go into fight. You go into win.
This is my t-shirt for first relay for life.
I love it. Fight.
For Feldkamp. I have the last name for it.
That's awesome.
So that was my relay 2013 t-shirt.
Kick cancer's ass. I wore this every day. I watched Rocky, the original one before, and I knew going into this battle with chemo and radiation, at the end of this fight, I would be bloodied, but I would be standing, and the cancer's going to be gone. And so and I felt like I never wanted to have any photos of me sitting down or anything. I documented this.
It's on Facebook every day. He puts up posters.
Yeah, and actually, when you're infused with the chemo, you can actually unplug it and walk. So I did that. I would walk around and try to keep moving. And I have to say, being in really good shape, I would recommend all of you. You work right now because you will have a bump in the road. It will happen. And I have to say, I was in really good shape coming into this. Kind of like Mary, you know, you lose a lot of weight. I was 196 pounds when I went in. I went down to 166. A lot of that's muscle. But you know, I had reserve coming in. I just felt confident coming in. Now as it goes on, I mean, you're struggling, you know, towards the end. I mean, there's no doubt. It's like we talked earlier. Was the gal from Maker Van Hour we talked about? Right in back, it's weird how the world is going on around you, but it's so far away. It's like, God, that's what life is, and it's just awkward. And I was embarrassed. I would try to get off my ass. I'd come into here to Zingerman's. The staff was very supportive. I welcomed that. They were rooting for me. Panera, the people at P.F. Chang. Where was I going with that? I can always say now, because the radiation, it did hit my frontal lobe, so I got excuses now. It's like, well, where was I going with that? But anyway, the support is really, really, really critical. But being in shape, and now I'm restoring again, because I know there'll be another bump in the road. So you just want to, and it's more fun to live that way anyway, isn't it? To be in shape and the best you can be. So be a battler, but have a compassionate heart. And now it's all about breathe. It's just so great to breathe. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. And you guys are here to listen to the story, our stories, and it really is about what is life all about now. And so is telling your dad you love him. And Dave, I love you too. You haven't said that. Flip, I love you too, man. And Susan.
Even though he got all the hair, right?
I know. That's all right. That's all right. Hey, if you got it, you know, show it. If you don't have it, shave it off. Thank you.
I just have to say that Steve is kind of feeling like, what am I going to do next? And I think, Steve, there's only one thing you can do next. You have to be an inspirational speaker and writer. He's got the natural gift. Let's hear it for Steve.
Okay, I'm Larry. What goes on in your head every day?
Hold it real close.
What goes on in your head every day is who you are. And I want to be the best I can be, so I've invented some tools of how to make what I think be my friend and make my head be my friend and not my enemy. Because you think 168 hours a week, you think when you're sleeping, you dream or whatever that, but it affects the way you think. And what these folks are all talking about is positive examples of what you can do when you have something life-threatening, and these things are certainly life-threatening. And you don't encounter them in school, you don't learn how to do them except on your own. And so the tools I've invented, there's two tools I've invented. One is called SPEM, S-P-E-M, and the other one is called AWAR, A-W-A-R. SPEM means spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental. AWAR means alcohol, anxiety, writing, and relationships. I'm a writer, so I've gone back to writing after running a business for 34 years that my wife really ran. But when she died, that kind of, I don't want to run a business, I want to write. So I'm writing a book right now. It's called The Power of Positive Dying, and it's stories like these that I'm writing about. And that's the way you have to. But SPEM is spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental, and that's what you really think about every day and focus on every morning. And AWAR is, what I said. I mean, it's about me writing and doing something I'm good at and like to do, and doing talks and things like that. I'm fortunate because I was diagnosed 18 years ago with prostate cancer. I'm not just diagnosed newly. This is 18 years. And I thought, I was telling everybody that it's been 13 or 14 years. And the other day I started counting up and it's been 18 years. It was in 2000 when I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Well, when you get diagnosed with something, you don't know what's going to happen. I thought I was going to die. I mean, prostate cancer, it happens to most men. Most men die with it, not of it. And so I went and I got 5 different consults. 2 in Michigan, 1 in Florida, 1 in the state of Washington, 1 out in California, in different places where I worked or had clients. And I decided I wanted to really learn about prostate cancer because it's normally slow growing, and I only did it because my PSA was up to 4.3, which is a little over the 4 that was the norm in those days. Today it's lower than that. But my PSA had gone from 2.5
You need to use your microphone.
2.5 to 4.3, and so the physician I had at that time was Dr. Solomon over at St. Joe's, and very good doctor, and he helped me diagnose all that. But then I wanted to find out what's the best treatment, because there's 20 different treatments you can do for prostate cancer. So I decided to do something called brachytherapy. Does anybody know what brachytherapy is? It's radiation, but it's done by what I call rice bombs. These are radioactive seeds that are implanted in the cancer, And my cancer, fortunately, was confined to my prostate gland. I had 69 seeds put in 21 spots on my prostate gland, and I could sit there there was a TV right up there, and I'm looking at it, and the doctor's explaining what's going on, because I'm like a journalist. I want to know answers to questions, and I'm not, this was easy to do, just sit and watch TV. So that was an hour procedure. I had that done in Seattle by a guy who I read about in Fortune magazine. But there's so many ways to treat prostate cancer. And so I wanted to get the thing that would have, I thought, the least side effects. Well, there's no short-term side effects to speak of with braking therapy. But there are long-term things, and they're incontinence and impotence. Well, if you talk to a man about being impotent or incontinent, they're not exactly the things you feel comfortable talking about or having to suffer from. But you know what? There's so many ways to treat those things that are available that you just find out what they are. And right here between St. Joe's, and then I switched over to the university, and because they had a bigger, I think there's 200 people who are physicians who treat urology over there. So I started dealing with a woman called Suzanne Kwalik, who's a PhD, and she was good in that type of treatment and sexually related matters and things like that. And another guy, Frank Montgomery, who's a surgeon, and another guy named Dana Ohl, who was the doctor who's in charge of all the urology. So I studied these people, met with them, and I met with other people at the outset all around the country, and then decided to do this treatment of braking therapy. So the whole upshot of it was that now 18 years later, I have a different lifestyle and different things I have to deal with, but it's still about what's going on in my head. And am I going to treat that like, I'm going to beat it the way Steve's talking about with a boxing glove? Well, I don't have anything that fancy, but my head is with me, and my thoughts are with me 24/7, 168 hours a week. So what I think every day, I think in terms of the words I mentioned, SPEM and the A war, and I focus on those things and what can I do that's positive today. And you know what? I feel better today than I've felt probably in 40 or 50 years in terms of where my head is and where I'm thinking and what I'm doing and what I'm achieving and what I'm hoping to achieve. So that's kind of a nutshell of my story. Thanks for listening.
Respond to any of the others and make some other comments, and we can just pass this around. One of the things we want to do is share with you, as many have, some of the lessons of how this changes our lives. So maybe we could talk about that and pass it around.
Okay, I'll maybe hit on a couple things. Before cancer and in business, I would have lunch with friends periodically, not a lot, but it was so superficial. We'd have a conversation, lunch, great, going good, see ya. If somebody had an issue or something, I didn't really spend a lot of time with that because I didn't have time to listen. And to someone even a little bit down, I got to go back to business and I got to make sales, right? They look at the how we're doing month to month. So one of the things I've learned through this process is, and especially some of my men friends, where I've had lunch with my friends, and now it's just totally different. I have time. I want to hear how you're doing, and especially at my age, it's more of a senior dude, and so it's on transition. And I opted not to go back to New Step, and I just felt like I was under so much, there's pressure. And I just don't want that now. And I'm on the board, so I think I can be pretty good. Now I'm not in the weeds, so I can ask questions, but I have to be restrained. I can't be saying what to do, but that's okay. And I think even with my friends, I can ask questions, and spending that time. So it's been very, very enriching. And then I've also realized I'm more than just business. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a patient. I had my MRI yesterday, so we keep going back. Don't we try to run away and boy, they keep pulling us back. All I looked at when I was at the hospital, where is the exit sign? I want to get that out of here. And, yeah, it's just the moments. And I was in Phoenix with my daughter. I had this wonderful trip with her, and they had an ice skating rink. And these kids in Phoenix are out skating. And they don't skate very well in Phoenix.
Except for Gretzky.
Yeah, except for Gretzky. So it was just so wonderful. The smiles, these kids, the joy. And I would just stand there just to watch it. I spent the time just to drink it in. So now just a smile. Love it, and I think it's just kindness, and what can you do each day to make somebody else's life better? And sometimes just an act of kindness can do it.
When you confront somebody with cancer, I think it's really helpful first to validate that they're going through a very tough experience. Not those trite phrases, oh, God has a plan for you, or we need another angel in heaven, but to just say, oh my gosh, that really is tough. I had a friend who had a recurrence of Hodgkin's disease when I was in graduate school, and that was in the days when we used more colorful language because we were younger. And I said, and he told me, and I said, oh my gosh, that sucks. That really sucks. And he told me later on that mine was his favorite response of everybody, because he felt like I appreciated his challenge. And then after that, to just give your genuine response. I am so sorry you're going through this. I'm so sorry that you have to have this challenge. May I hug you? I mean, I'm a hugger, so I'm happy if anybody wants to hug me. Go
Should
for
they
it.
line up or?
You see the hug line. And then to really start to reach out and say that you're sorry, that you're really sad that they're going through this, and reaffirm your friendship or your brotherhood or sisterhood or whatever, and just share with them, but I'm your friend. I've been your friend for how many years, and I'm going to be by your side. I want to stay in contact with you. I want to be able to help you. And that is, you're sharing with them then that you're not afraid of them. That you're willing to, and if you are afraid, that's okay too. Maybe share that. And call them. Call them on a regular basis. I think that's really helpful. Now, I know I'm singing to the choir because a lot of you are my friends here, and you've done these things for me. I've had friends, I've had some extraordinary things done that I can't even imagine recommending. But I had a friend who was here today who, I'm a psychologist, and I had a lot of sessions where I was explaining to my patients what was going on, and they were reacting to that. But there was no way I could write these sessions up or build them. So my friend said, okay, well, what did you talk about in this session? How did the patient respond? And she put it all in medical records language, and then we billed them, and I was paid for those sessions. And she said, you did the work. You already did the work. You tell me about it. you need to get paid for it. So my husband, wrote up the bills and we got paid for it. That's extraordinary. That I call it our friends here now. She's smiling. My saint friend, because that was so far above and beyond what's usually done. The other thing that was remarkable is I told you we do the photography for the Michigan State Marching Band. When I was in the hospital and diagnosed with a brain tumor and surgery, the Ohio State University has marching band photographers too, Ed and Karen Crockett. And I befriended Karen in the photograph, and we befriended Ed. And Ed called Mark, said, Mark, I will take pictures of your kids. I will take pictures of the Spartan marching band. I'll take them marching. I'll take them the candid pictures in the stadium. We'll take the formation pictures, and we will give these pictures to you. You can put them on your website. You can do whatever you want with them, but you can have these pictures. And we were so touched by that he would extend himself in that way.
You got a sign for us here. So you have your sign here?
My recommendation is to reach out and make contact and think about their situation. What do they need? Maybe they need to go out. People give me choices, which I love. They'll say, do you want me to come over and bring over some lunch, or would you like to go out to lunch, or would you like to have me just come over and we'll talk? And that's wonderful, because then I have control over that, and I can, if I'm feeling badly, we can just come over and talk. If I'm feeling okay, maybe we can go out to lunch. But having choices is really helpful. And also people would say to me, instead of, call me if you need things, that's a wonderful thing to do, but give them multiple choice ideas. Would you like to go clothes shopping? Would you like to go shopping for the kids for Christmas? Can I take you out? Do you need to take a break? Or if you're a guy, I want to go to Tractor Supply.
Yeah, I got a story to affect about part of that. So I had a dear friend, Glenn Davis. Does anybody know Glenn Davis in the room? But Glenn died in 2000, and he and I were friends back from Ferndale High School days. And he had cancer. And I actually was with him when the doctor called, and we were working on a book on being friends. And so I gave him some choices. It was a January 30th, and he said, I really want to go to the hockey game, Michigan hockey game. Okay, that's fine. I like hockey. He said, and I want to walk from downtown to go to that game. I want to show that I can walk from downtown. I said, Glenn, it's 10 below tonight. He said, I can do it. I know I can do it. So, okay, I gave a choice. So we're walking downtown, 10 below, and he stops about every 15 feet. I just got to rest for a little bit. I was never so cold in my life. So there may be limits to.
I think the question started out with kind of how it changed us, and it was positive. I remember telling people that getting the cancer was actually a positive experience, because prior to the cancer, I was all about, climbing the corporate ladder, I'm the breadwinner in my family, I support my family, go, got my 2 college degrees, just going, and I traveled a lot. At one point I had a job where I traveled immensely. I was in franchising. And you start looking at life like, there's better things. And so I was already in my mind, Lord willing, I guess, starting to tailor back due to some other things I'd seen. And a girlfriend of mine lost her son to cancer. And so I was like, I got to get out of this. Well, I started looking for another job because I needed to. So I kind of was already, ironically, kind of changing my lifestyle a little bit before I got the cancer. So thank God, because I think if I would have had that job when I started. So it brought me to faith. I go to Keystone Church in Saline. And I'm there every Sunday for half a day because I teach Sunday school what we call upstreet because we're cool. We're a very modern church, so it's upstreet. I teach 3rd and 4th grade girls. Then I go to a Bible study with my 20-year-old daughters. Now decided they want to go to church with me. And then after that, we have a third service. We actually go to big person church, you know. So that's why I like every Sunday. And so I really got my faith and got that in check. And so I'm back working, and I got a side business. So I'm still really, really busy, and everybody always picks on me that knows me about. They don't know how I'm so busy all the time. But it's different. My thoughts different. I appreciate things differently. You take the time. Life's short. I'm not, you don't get as upset, or your priorities. You shift your priorities. But the one thing I was going to add to Jan, for anybody that has cancer or will have or whatever, you got to let the people help you. I was a really bad, initially, cancer diagnosis, in that my husband, I was really bad with my husband because I have the limited mobility still to this day. He's always like trying to, I'm like, would you stop? You're going to make me fall and trip. I was like a little kid, because he wanted to help me too much. But people want to help. And in one instance, we got a wheelchair ramp built for us by my now employer. Evangelical Homes has a Safe at Home program. And that was great, but in the kind of behind the scenes, my husband's best friend and her best man and some of his buddies were going to build one. So they were really kind of bummed. I took that opportunity away from them, So you got to let them help. And if they want to bring food, I did have to control it only Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday because people were bringing way too much. But let people overflow. Yeah, just let people help though, and don't let people help, and don't put your head in the sand when you have cancer. Go hide in a corner because there's help there, and you do need it. You think you don't want it. You don't want to be open about your issues or whatever. But I got on Facebook. I know Steve was on, but I was on it heavily because guess what happens? You have two choices. I look at it. You have. I can stick my head in the sand and I can tell anybody I have this cancer. Oh, maybe if it gets really bad, it'll be obvious, but I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to seek any help. I'm not, you got to be your own advocate, get second opinions, all of that. Or you can be out there and telling people, because guess what happens if you don't tell your story from your mouth, which is what I did. When I was initially diagnosed on a Monday, I was discharged that Friday evening. By the time I got home, we have a good friend, God bless him, but he's got a big mouth. He had everybody, it was like, whoa, it's really bad, just like the doctors in the hospital, it's really bad. By the time I got out, I was like dead. I had to do control here, so everybody wanted to hear from me. Damage control, and so I found this last night. They had ladies' night out in downtown Saline last night. So I was in one of our little boutique shops there, and I'll read it to you and I can show you, but the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. So I guess that's how I feel it's changed my life.
Say one more time.
The meaning of life, see if I can remember it, is to teach kindergarten, student teach. There you go, thanks kid. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. So that's kind of how I feel. I mean, people tell me I need to write a book. Yeah, in my spare time, Larry and I have actually talked about it. He might be able to help me, but I would love to write a book, and it's Picasso, by the way. I would love to write a book and something, but I just want to help people. So I talk to people that have with cancer one-on-one, or through church, and whatever I can do to help them really is what it's about. But.
Kathy, I know you had a couple points too about helping. Can you elaborate on those?
It's like most things, I don't remember them after I say them. My sense is just be there. Half of my business now is I've got a big table right inside my office, and people just come and talk. And all of you are welcome to just come and have coffee and whatever you want to drink. And even I get paid in craft beers these days. Okay, but everybody wants to say thank you. And so I like beer now. Now beer is really pretty good. New taste buds, it's all new. So at any rate, be there for others. Just listen. That's more important than probably anything else, or at least what I've found. That, I love the purpose. I got to take a picture of that.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
I think that's just so true.
It's one of those things hanging on the wall.
Okay, let's open things up. We could probably talk for quite a while, and actually, after this is the third time we met, I think we have a book here. I think it'd be interesting to get all your stories into a book. And Roger is videoing this, and it will be available. I'll send out a notice, but it should be available in a week or two. And it would be really useful to share these stories. I think it would be very, very powerful. So So I know there's many of you out there that want to ask questions and also have stories. So I'd like you to be able to do that, and maybe if people could stand up, and it's kind of hard to pass the mic around. So if you have something to say, you come on over to this corner next to Matt there, whatever you can. But we'll start over here with Mary, and just stand there, Mary. We'll pass it back.
Piggybacking on the
Just
last.
say who you are, Mary.
Mary Martin, wife of stage 4 throat cancer survivor and chief caretaker. Diagnosed in 2013, so you can add up the years. What I was most touched by a book, a very small book. It's called The Gift of Presence. And Chris was diagnosed in October, and I read this in November, and it was fabulous for me. The bottom line is 3 things. People want your presence, they want your silence, and they want your sincerity. I would agree with those. Now,
Everybody else.
question. A thought in the group? There's got to be someone. Okay, good. Let's do that.
Good morning. My name is Brandon Black with Ellie's Place. I know a lot of you in the room here. I just wanted to compliment you. Steve, this is awesome. I'm going to say this to all you. I love all of you guys. I feel like you're part of my family now. I have a sister who survived bladder cancer, has a needle bladder from the university. I love them. She went through 16 different surgeries to get there. And her story is amazing. I'm going to have her and ask her to share her story with my family and my friends. But my request to you is to continue to tell your story. Please share, write books, share on Facebook. Thank you for your time. Thank you. You're all busy, and I know you have a lot of other things to do. Thank you for sharing with us. My job at Ellie's Place is to help tell the story about people dying. That's what we do, is grief support for kids and teens, and it's those stories that help others get through their grief or their thoughts that are negative. So thank you so much. We appreciate you, and welcome to my family.
This one back over here. Okay, and then we'll. Oh, you got it. We have one here too.
Okay, Brooke, you want to?
I do.
Yeah.
So my oldest, she's 8, had leukemia as an infant. She was diagnosed at 4 months and had a bone marrow transplant at 9 months. So now she's at her 7-year anniversary of being That's awesome. You know, like she actually gets to be sick and we don't have to be scared. So, so the question is, she knows her story. So the question I have for the people who are up here and then anybody else in the room, especially like Brandon, as you're talking about telling the story, she knows her story and she owns it, but she doesn't remember it. But it's part of it when she says goodbye to Dad in the morning, when she goes out to school, she says, "Have a great day, Dad, but not better than the day that I lost cancer." So she has some perspective. But like, that was an awesome day, and she gets to own that and tell that story. There's a beautiful, we have a video, the story of Clara and John, that's her treatment and recovery, meeting her bone marrow donor, and the relationship that the two of them had, and she shared that with classmates in school.
This was a stranger, right?
It was, yeah, an unrelated donor. He was a football player and SUNY Cortland player's linebacker, and his donation's huge. We'd never seen red cells that many red cells. And I like touched it, and the nurse was like, "Don't squish the cells." I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to bruise them." So my question is, as you own your story, as you do tell your story, what is it that you have seen resonate? Do you have advice for how a child who doesn't even necessarily, you know, just as her mother, you know, I was her advocate, and it was almost like, you know, I had to be her voice, you know, as an infant. So it was very much, I was very personally involved in her story, but it's not mine. It's now hers. And so how do I support her as she then shares that? Do you have advice with the adults, or Brandon, do you have advice on how she can really own that?
I'd say find her the audience. She's not shy, so.
She's not shy.
Heather, you want to come in on it? Or?
Well, I just said find her the audience, that she can do it. She can obviously present. That's all I would say, is give her the opportunity.
I had an experience with a good friend of mine, my son's. My son is he's in his 30s now, but he was at about 25. This woman, Carrie Holmes, didn't you know Carrie? developed the same diagnosis that you had, Jan. And the community was devastated because she was the leader of this community. And she survived 7 years. And she was so loved that 2 of her best friends moved back to Ann Arbor to take care of her. One was living in Oregon, one was living in California. So, and the day that she was dying, it was amazing. The outer room was filled with 40 or 50 young people waiting, and so they all, it was chaos. And so I kind of pulled up my leadership instincts and had everybody have an opportunity to go in and say goodbye to Carrie. And so it was a really extraordinary experience. And so sometimes I think in this community, this is like 5 or 6 years ago, the community has stayed so tight. And it was like the bond around Carrie, everybody could identify with her. And it's like the survivors of Carrie now. And they built a new cabin in her honor at Camp Algonquin, where she was a community counselor. So very powerful experience. There was somebody back here you were heading to?
Kathy, if you're
My
name is Beth Doschinger. This is the first time I've come to this gathering, and I wanted to thank you for sharing your stories. I brought my companion who had to leave to go to the doctors. He's a stage 4 cancer survivor, and I wanted to let you know that your stories have inspired me, and the reason that I do what I do at Michigan Medicine and raise funds for cancer and other priorities for medical conditions. I just want to say that we're so grateful to the Rogels, who gave $150 million for cancer and to eradicate that and to invest in new research. We are so fortunate to be in a community like Michigan that has such an extraordinary place. You've all talked about our doctors who take care of us. And so I just want to recognize our caregivers, and all of us are together in this to fight for our survival and our health. And so thank you for the inspiration that you've given to me and to all of us, and to David, who is here with you as well. Thank you.
Doug, he's on his phone. Come on, Doug, I'm calling you out here. But Doug is a nurse, had been a nurse. Come on up for a second. And at the university, and Doug has done an extraordinary thing. You were talking about children who survive cancer, but he's helping in very special ways with kids who have not just cancer, but other serious illnesses. So Roger's moving us around here. Stand out there where you can be seen, Doug. Tell us what North Star Reach is.
Thank you. We just recently opened in summer 2016 a residential camp facility out in Pinckney on Patterson Lake, and it's dedicated to serving children who've gone through some type of serious health challenge. And so for those kids, it allows them to come experience a sense of normalcy, where they get to look around the room and see 100 other or 120 other kids who've gone through the exact same challenges they've gone through. We've got doctors and nurses and a medical center, and are able to really support the delivery of complex medical care so that we can take kids who may not have an opportunity to get out to camp out into a authentic summer camp experience. So they get to regain some of their lost childhood, make new friends, try new things, and really find out that a lot of the restrictions that have been placed on them may be perceived, because the first thing when you get a diagnosis, okay, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and camp becomes a place where we focus on what you can do and support them medically, emotionally, physically, as well as financially. We don't charge anything to go to camp, so it's really a great opportunity for these kids. And then we have family camp experiences in the spring and fall, and we're about ready to start our spring family camp weekends, where the entire family gets to come to camp. So not only do the kids find a peer who's gone through a similar challenge, the parents, the siblings, the whole family gets an opportunity to meet and cope and discuss and find support. Awesome.
The experience today is we don't charge you all for this, but we do pick out a non-for-profit that we want to support, and I'd like to have people think about making a contribution to North Star. The full title, if people want to reach out, is North Star
Northstar Reach.
Reach, okay.
NorthstarReach.org.
So if you want to make a contribution today, it's $5 or $10 or $1,000, whatever it is, but this is a great program, and Doug, you deserve a lot of credit because you had this concept, and this is a lot about doing the things you could do, and you saw it through, built the camp with a whole lot of support, but it is running it very successfully now, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
One more, and then we're going to let everybody have a closing comment, okay? So,
I'm Lee.
Lee, go ahead, just pass it over to Lee here.
I'm Lee Berry, I'm with Beachman Theater, and I just wanted to mention all of our guests today. It's wonderful. But about this time, 6 years ago, I lost my younger sister to breast cancer. And she was a fighter, and it was even though she was pretty young, it was a period of 3 or 4 years, and it was tough. But then soon afterwards, one of my closest friends also came down with breast cancer. Unfortunately, she did survive, and she's surviving, and everything's great right now. But one thing that we do every year with her, and also to honor my sister, is March in Detroit. There's an annual event that's coming up. I'm sorry I don't have the exact date. It's Saturday morning rather. It's usually late April or early May, coming up very soon. And it's a massive group of people who meet at Comerica Park. It's Susan G. Komen. There's a race involved, but also a march. And it's among tens of thousands of people, and most of them are moms and sisters and daughters and other breast cancer survivors. And it's a very meaningful experience just to share that. So I just wanted to inform people that happens, and I encourage you to check it out. Thanks.
Shall we just start with final
Yeah.
words? Listen, that was great advice. I think that's what you need to do as much as anything else. The other thing is, I have a neighbor whose husband died at 34 of throat cancer. And that was years ago. And I'm just glad we all got sick when we got sick. And Larry, you were able to get seated, and that was literally unheard of. You got amazing treatment that even the doctor wasn't sure it was going to work. I mean, there's a wonderful book on cancer called The Incurable Maladies. And oh man, not that many years ago, it was grim, and we've always been written off. So in many ways, it's great to be alive today. We're fortunate that we got the care we did. And I think all of us might hope in the future for what it will be a few years from now. So keep those vaccines.
I appreciate everybody coming, and one thing for the folks with the cancer, you don't want to, as I already said, be in your doom and gloom. You need to respect your caregivers, and I know Kathy was wanting to share that story as she was a caregiver for her parents. I was busy fighting, Steve's busy fighting, and I'm focused, and I got my stuff to do, and my husband was just dying, right? So take care of your caregivers.
Not literally.
No. But I think it was harder on him than it was on me. So just be mindful of that and take your health seriously, and you got to take matters in your own hands. You got to get the second opinions. You got to be out there. I did holistic. I did all kinds of things I didn't even tell my doctors about because I was going to do whatever to stay alive. So you're your own advocate. So be strong, be a fighter. That's all I can say.
I want to really reinforce the stress that's on the primary caretakers. So when you're first talking to the person and you say, "May I help you?" you might also say, "May I speak to your husband, partner, wife, and offer them some support? Because I'm sure they're going through a really difficult time with your experience. Would you mind if I did that?" And I think that also would be very, very helpful. I'm not a ferocious fighter. I really admire you.
Oh, you're ferocious?
Oh,
you are.
I consider myself more the ever-ready bunny.
That's how you fight.
It's better this time of the year.
I just just take one step forward, and then one more conversation, one more question, one more possibility, one more book. There's a friend who sent me a link to a beautiful, beautiful book. Her name is Kate. My friend is not, but the book is.
It's Kate Bowler. Is her name.
Kate Bowler, yeah.
It's an amazing book.
It's really beautiful. She is a professor of theology, and she developed stage 4 colon cancer, and wrote a book on what that experience was like and how it changed her faith. She also mentioned what my experience is too. As you have already, buddy. There's a kind of spiritual or way of looking at things that if you pray correctly, if you go to church regularly, then good things will befall you. Well, that's pretty unrealistic in our day and age. And I come from, like Kate Bowler does, I come from a Mennonite background, Polish, and then the other side is Mennonite. And the Mennonites believe that life is tough. Life has rough spots. It just does. And the way we get through it is our sense of community. My uncle, I don't know how many.
Yeah, we're just going to give everybody, it's almost 9. I want to give people a chance to get out on time.
Oh, okay.
So let me give Larry and Steve a last chance. Thank you very much for your time.
This is not alcohol, by the way.
It's okay if it is.
This is a tip from Kathy Macdonald. It's a RAI. Oh, you got yours.
I know I do. I never go anywhere without it.
I don't either.
Well, that is funny. All the cancer folks, especially with the neck above, we always have our water. We're always sipping our water. And it was hard to drink, wasn't it? Drinking and eating were really tough. And but anyway, my closing comment is to not be afraid of death, and don't be afraid to die, and that gives you the freedom to live. And I always felt like during this treatment, I was never fearful. And then the key thing I didn't want the cancer to do is to break my spirit. And that's being a true warrior either way. And I thought about my kids. I'm going to show them how to do it. I'm going to show them. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but I always felt like I'm going to go up. It's all up. I'm going to stay up during my treatment. If my body fails me, I'm going to go up even further. It's a win-win proposition. But I think the key thing is just don't be afraid to die, because and don't be afraid to live. That's the main thing. It frees you to live. If you have something on your mind, say it. It can be in a business meeting. They have the courage to say whatever you believe. Thank you.
7 words. Treat cancer like your new best friend.
Thank you so much. We have Mike there.
Yep.
I just so much appreciate everything. It just feels to me like this program is over, but this is the beginning. And I hope we can all stay connected. And I know many of you have other stories. We don't have to leave this room right now, although it's 9 o'clock and officially we're going to end. But if some of you want to just come up a little bit closer and share some stories and just continue the conversation, that's fine. We don't have to videotape it, but I know many of you didn't get a chance to speak, and there are some personal stories out there. So if you want to come up and share that and get some resources and some ideas. When Roger gets the video, I'm going to put out this on Dr. Rob blog blast, and those of you that get it, great, you'll receive it. If you're not on that list, let me know. I'm also passing around, Beth, can you just raise your hand? Beth Humphreys is my new assistant, and she's been fantastic. And we're organizing a couple of new groups. One is, I think we should probably have some of you, maybe form a group for people who are going through cancer, because it would be very powerful. But I'm doing a group, a few of you have been in it, Dick Sarns is one, Steve Angerman, for people who are on the last third of career, and maybe even beyond that, and are trying to think about what to do to transition, like after your major thing is done. Rita, you know, has been at U of M for what, 40-some years or something like that. So a lot of us have been in positions, and then we want to transition and figure out what's next. So I'm forming a second group with Steve Angerman, who was recently sold Running Fit, and is now involved in this group. And we've had an amazing group with Ken Fisher, Steve, some others out there I'm probably forgetting, talking about this transition. In over 5 years, it's been amazing. A lot of people have gone through that, but have gone through it well. And so if you'd like to be in that new group, let me know. I also run a peer group for people who are actively in their careers and want to enhance their ability by being part of a peer group. And I'm forming a new one of those too, so let me know with Beth. And we'll be doing that soon. So if you want to come up and have further conversation and share, there's some more food we could share, and we'll keep it going. And again, thank you so much for coming and for sharing your stories. I know there's a lot of powerful things out there. Thank you very much.